We've got so much to talk about today. We're going to talk about whether or not Kang is an overhyped card or maybe even a bad card. We're going to look at some data, and we're going to also reflect on my personal experience on what deck I think he's good in and other decks that I think he's not so good in. We're also going to talk about Kitty Pryde. A lot of comments from the developers on actually how Kitty Pryde works. We're also going to talk about all of the cards coming out next season. And most importantly, we have a tremendous insight update from the developers on how they perceive LEECH. LEECH is one of the most hated cards in Marvel Snap right now, and a lot of people have been calling for a LEECH nerf. We're going to read what they actually had to say. First things first, let's get into some interesting data on Kang. And before we get hyper into the data on Kang, I want to say that I'm smart enough to know that we really don't know that much about Kang. It's only been 3 days. We have some data coming in, and the jury is still out. I don't think this is a card, personally, right now that can be put into any deck. It is a cube management tool that saves cubes. I believe it also caps the upside to your cubes when played incorrectly. And I think it also saves you a ton of cubes. Where the real opportunity for Kang is when you play Kang on the same turn that he comes into your hand, you get to draw another card, which is incredibly useful on combo decks. And I had very good luck with Kang in a Galactus deck. But does Kang actually make a Thanos deck better? Does Kang make a Shuri deck better? The data suggests not. It actually looks pretty bad. Now, before we look into data, and I just want to say I'm a numbers guy. I'm just a numbers guy. My past lifetime, I was a financial advisor. I worked primarily in municipal bonds. I like numbers and data. I just love it. It's my favorite thing, you know, as coming from the financial sector and doing financial analysis and managing people's money. I just love numbers. So the most popular card in the game right now is Sunspot, you know, and this is off of a very large data size, 1.6 million. And this is off Snap.fan, which is a tool that can be installed on your Android or Steam client, and it collects data about the cards. And there's 6 data points on this that we're going to consider. Win percentage index, cube percentage index, win drawn, average cubes and win percentage, and win played. Now, I'm just going to say that in general, 53% win percentage kind of seems to be like some sort of baseline that Second Dinner is trying to achieve. Average cubes, like anything over 0.3, in my opinion, is pretty good. Win drawn, same thing. Now, win played is a little different. Now, what is super interesting about Kang is if I sort out of the 200 cards here, and I sort for like the most impactful card when played, you will see that it is a card like Null, right? 67% win percentage when played, average cubes 1.65. That is the highest cube win percentage out of any card when played is Null out of the 200 plus cards of the game. Kang is on the absolute rock bottom, and I'm not exactly sure why that is. That could be that people are just playing Kang to see if they can snap and get a free bluff and get you to back out of the game, and it really throws these numbers off. I'm not really sure. So we're going to look into some future data. Like I said, Kang has only been out for 3 days. I've played him almost constantly in the last 3 days. I have a good feeling of how the card works and when it does not work, but it is not showing good results. And I feel like the data is a little skewed. And this is only a small sample size. Like we compared it to Sunspot, 1.6 million situations where it was seen. And this is only 15,000. I think also people are testing out the combo, and the combo is bad and it may be throwing off the numbers. But if you take a look at right here, game scene, 50% win rate, 0.2 cubes is fine. Win drawn, 0.2 cubes. It just seems like it's super bad when it's played. And I think that is for people that are trying to get the bluff to work. All right, now, I sorted the 3 best Kang decks. And this first deck, I have a ton of experience playing. In the last 3 days, I've played this first deck right here, and I've gone from 126 up to 133. I think I'm at 132 just using this King Galactus deck. And we're going to compare the results of this deck with other similar decks that do not have King. The other three decks are Shuri. So this is the standard Shuri build, the Shuri Red Skull. Look at the numbers here, 51% win rate, 0.18 cubes. Thanos deck, the Lockjaw Thanos deck, negative cube rate. All right, so let's first compare this Galactus deck. And I just want to say, I'm not even sure if this is the optimal Galactus build. The Adam Warlock Yellow Jacket seems like a gimmick that goes off, let's say, in 1 of 5 games. I had tremendous results, 47% win rate, 0.51 cubes. I went and compared the same build, basically Galactus, Null, Adam Warlock builds, and King actually added value. King made this deck better. Is it because Adam Warlock draws cards and you could draw into King, play King, and then draw another card? But the actual cube rate is actually better on this build. It goes from 0.4 and 0.37 up to 0.51. So I'm confident in saying that the numbers reflect my personal experience that King actually made this Galactus build better. There were a ton of situations where I was able to play King, identify if they were going to play Arrow or not, save cubes by retreating, or I did not have Galactus in my hand. I played King and snapped and they retreated, or I drew into King, played King, and then got a free card draw, and I drew into my win condition, which was very often Galactus, and it felt like the deck was more consistent. Now, let's look at Shuri Zero build. So this is the best performing Shuri Zero King build with a 51% win rate with average cubes of 0.18. What do the other Shuri decks normally do? 63% win rate, 0.68 cubes, 60% win rate, 0.62 cubes, 60% win rate, 0.6 cubes, 62% win rate, 0.57 cubes, 60% win rate. I have no idea what's going on. This literally feels like Kang is going into this deck and he is just a rock. Ask yourself this: if you put a rock into your deck, how much would that ruin the deck? Is Kang actually adding any value to a Shuri Zero build? Or is he just a rock? I don't know. I feel like the numbers are super bad right here. And I'm not sure that Kang is this place into every deck cube management card. The numbers only after 3 days are not reflecting that. I'm not willing to jump to conclusions right away. We need more data, more time, but the initial thoughts is that this data is not good. Let's look at another archetype, and that is the Thanos King. So this is a quite traditional Thanos King build. 48% win rate with a negative cube rate. This is actually deck loses cubes. Again, small sample size, where the normal Thanos Lockjaw decks, all of them have much better numbers. 63%, 0.7. This could be possibly the best deck in the game right now. 62%, 0.59. 60%, 0.52. All of these builds are without Kang, and they do just fine. So I'm not really sure what to make all of these numbers, but I just wanted to read some comments from the developers about Kang, and this is kind of my experience as well. I actually think you can be giving away upside on Kang's cube potential. If you play Kang when you're obviously going to win, you can actually play Kang when you could have played your win condition and won, or you play Kang, your opponent second thinks, and then they retreat. has happened to be a lot. I think people might be playing Kang when they don't need to. A lot of people have voiced concerns over the risk-free snaps Kangs allow and how it diminishes one of the key strategy elements of the game. Is the free step mechanic here to stay? And this is from one of the developers. This is an intentional element of Kang's design, but like virtually all card elements, subject to change if our data and other feedback indicates an issue. Keep in mind that using Kang this way may increase how often you win with a snap, but it will cap your wins because they'll be worth less cubes more often. So he's suggesting what I just said is that you may actually be stripping away cube equity by playing Kang too frequently. And oftentimes Kang is just a rock in your deck. Okay, I just experienced the fact that Kang resets snaps. What is the actual point of that? And I'm just going to suggest it's a time waster. Both me and opponent snap. I play a winning move, which he couldn't stop because I had priority. He plays Kang and snaps, resets 1 cube. He retreats. I win 1 cube. What this player does not understand is that they were never going to win more than 1 cube. When I'm losing and I have Kang in my hand and I know you're going to win, and if I did not have Kang in my hand, I would retreat 100% of the time and you would only get 1 cube. What's happening is I'm wasting 30 seconds of time. What happens is what I do is you snap, I snap back and place Kang, and I'm just hoping that you'll retreat. We have to waste all this time. You don't retreat. You think you're going to win 4 cubes, but Kang resets the turn and I just retreat. And basically it just wasted 30 seconds of time. That is the reality of what Kang is really doing, is he's just wasting time. And I'm willing to place Kang and snap just hoping that you'll retreat. And that does happen. People do retreat to Kang when I have nothing. It just doesn't happen as much as you would think. And I find that the Galactus deck presents the best opportunity for that because I don't always have my win condition. Let's talk about Nimrod. Nimrod is going to be the Battle Pass card coming out on Monday. There was a very good developer highlight video. And then we've also got some clarification on some of the new cards that are coming out next month. And then we also have some developer comments on LEECH and what they want from LEECH. What's interesting about this video is this video actually mentions a combo, and they show a combo with a turn 6 Galactus player. He also works very well with Venom and Shuri. I can see a ton of situations where turn 2 you play Wolverine on the left lane. On turn 4 you play Shuri. Turn 5 you play Nimrod, a 10 power Nimrod on the leftmost lane. Then you play Galactus in the free right lane and explodes the Nimrod. Nimrod kicks a 10 power all the way over, like shown here. And this is just a 5 power one, but with Shuri it'd be a 10 power. And then the middle one also explodes and kicks over another 10 power. So you would have 22 power plus 4 or 6 power from Wolverine, leading to a situation where you could have 26 to 28 power on turn 6 Galactus. Never mind, you could also be using Shuri to send over a -16 Hobgoblin on turn 5. That is always an option. Now, Kitty Pryde has been a confusing card. There were 2 developer comments on Kitty Pryde. I most likely will be picking up this card. You can return this to your hand to gain +2 power. And there were some questions on whether or not this card could be brought back into your hand on the same turn that it was played. I think there is a lot of favorable interactions with this card with key cards like Bishop and Angela. Yes, you can return and play Kitty in the same turn because of this functionality. The only way to undo your actions with Kitty Pryde while playing cards is to use the undo all action button access by tapping your energy meter. I'm very interested in this card. I'm hoping that it'll be a better card than Sunspot, let's say. Another interaction that they said would not work is with Beast. No, Kitty Pryde will only gain power if you return her to your hand with her own ability. So there will not be a positive interaction with Beast. There also is no favorable interaction with Quinjet. Master Mold, add 2 Sentinel to your opponent's hand is going to be another card. Hopefully Ronan will have his day. I think there's a lot of interesting situations. I think it's going to be a good counter to cards that don't really have a counter like Dracula. This is very interesting. And then of course we've got Negasonic Teenage Warhead. After any card is played here and destroy this card and that card. Now, I just want to say, Nimrod is going to be the Battle Pass card, and I think that is worth it, even if you don't care about Nimrod. There's going to be all kinds of things you can do with Venom and destroy decks and things like that. I think he's going to be super fun to play. But if you don't care about the card, there's still a lot of value in the Battle Pass from a collection advancement perspective with the amount of gold and credits. And I do recommend the Battle Pass, even if you don't care about the card. The other 3 cards that are coming out next month seem to me to be the right kind of cards that should be introduced into Marvel Snap. Interesting cards that will have some play, kind of like how Black Panther was an interesting card that saw some play. MODOK is an interesting card that saw some play. Lately, a lot of the cards that have been coming out in Series 5 have been bad, with the exception of maybe Kang. And all 3 of these cards, I think, have reasonable plans and reasonable decks, and we'll see some play, but none of them look busted like Silver Surfer or Zabu did when they came to the game. So I'm actually excited for the next month, and I hope this is a path forward that Second Dinner will continue. Do you monitor a card's fun factor? And this is 100% about LEECH. This is very fascinating. Yes, we measure fun. It's more important for cards to be fun than balance, and that's what makes them appealing. Among my duties as a game designer is to forecast the player experience and interpret their feedback, as well as how the data corresponds to the feedback. On LEECH specifically, one of the most hated cards in the game right now, most card games, ours included, manage keeping many different cards fun and strong by ensuring there's meaningful counterplay against all of them. Designers often call cards serving this role release valves, in that they remove the pressure created by strong cards. LEECH is exactly such a card. His role is to offer players a clean answer to decks trying to pack all of their power in at the last minute, such as Silver Surfer or Deathwave decks. Yes, Silver Surfer is almost an unplayable deck right now because of LEECH. Every time I play Silver Surfer with Sarah, I drop my Sarah in turn 5. They drop LEECH. There's just nothing I can do. It's over, right? Or Deathwave decks. Deathwave decks like to play Wave on turn 5 and then soak up power on Sunspot, let's say, and then play She-Hulk and Death and Arrow on turn 6. That does not work. MODOK gets destroyed by LEECH. There's a lot of decks that just get absolutely destroyed by LEECH. This isn't because we want those powerful decks to exist, but it's because we want to ensure a variety of powerful decks that can exist. Release valves, especially ones that restrict players, become more problematic when dominant decks include them as wide-ranging protection. We don't want LEECH or other valves to be our most placed cards for their costs, but it's also important for them to exist to be good at their jobs, which is a careful balance to manage. And I guess I'm trying to think about what this means. I think it kind of means like Killmonger exists, and Killmonger kind of destroys like zoo decks, right? Is that a bad or a good thing? I think it's okay. But LEECH right now seems oppressive, and I hope that they continue looking at it. And I'm glad that they made this post realizing they understand the situation to a certain extent. Another question that came up is about this Newverse web shop. So if you go to the Newverse web shop, you can purchase gold and season pass in-game items, and it looks like they are in the Philippines currency. Now, I am not interested or smart enough to see if there is a favorable exchange rate and this is worthwhile of doing. Players have told me that they are saving about 10% by doing this. This is an acceptable way of purchasing items on the Newverse website. Just wanted to mention that I purchased the $20 Momoko Magic bundle for $20 US because there was reasonable value in that the 1,500 gold has the same amount of value of 20 US dollars. Plus I got 1,500 credits and I got a pretty cool looking variant. Also worth noting is that you can use that 1,500 gold and purchase the more magic bundle or the upcoming token Tuesday, whatever it is. It's a Tuesday special offer that features collector tokens that you can purchase with gold. Also, there is a incentive to be hoarding collector's reserves if you care about variants. After this upcoming patch and this upcoming season, which I believe will be starting Monday night, we'll have to see. There will be steampunk variants for the following cards. Right now we have some steampunk cards in the game. I'm thinking about like Wasp and Ant-Man. So if you're interested in these variants, maybe save your collector reserves. Also, they're going to be changing the Thanos animation. They introduced a Thanos animation into the game, which was garbage, and then they removed it. And my understanding is they're going to replace that with this right here. Arrow, just worth noting that Arrow sucks cards over randomly. Arrow moves cards randomly, which also means sometimes she will move cards in the played order. So that is interesting information. They were asking about card acquisition, and the developers responded by saying there's an improvement for it in the next patch, and an additional one in the patch after that. We will share more soon. This is the area we'll continue to invest in until we get it right. New cards need to be exciting. One of the things that they mentioned on Twitter is that when a card is added into Series 5, on the first refresh in the token shop, that card is available, all players will have access to that. For example, when Kitty Pryde is made available, which is probably about 10 days away, on the first reset that she's available, she will appear there, is something that they were going to implement after the next patch. Let me know what you think in the comment section about Kang. Do you think he's a little overhyped? Do you think he's busted? I'm sure there's a lot of opinions out there. For me, the jury's out. The jury's out on Kang, and I'm going to continue to monitor the data. Bye for now.